Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2021-22 season. My name is Dan and today we have got possibly the most ambitious fantasy Premier League video I have ever made on this channel. This has taken a lot of work. You might have noticed I've not uploaded in a couple of days. This video has taken a little while longer to compile everything that I thought it would, because this is a video where I combine the data from 100 FPL Experts squads to try and create something really useful to you so we can analyze the data and help us make some really nice FPL decisions as we go into game week 1. This is so much in this video, so much so that I'm actually going to have to split this into 2 parts. Guys, this first part we're just going to look at all the data and try and find some patterns and stuff like that, and in the second video we're going to use that data to create the perfect game week 1 squad. Yes, we are doing it. 100 expert teams are going to combine to make the perfect squad. So make sure you like this video if you do find this helpful, if you do enjoy it, or if you do just appreciate the work that's gone into this video, and also subscribe if you want to make sure that you are ready for tomorrow's video where we're going to have a look at the team that I'm building from this data. Make sure you've subscribed and turn those notifications on as well, of course. But without further ado, guys, let's start the video. It's a huge one. Let's go. So 100 squads have been sent to me. I have asked permission to use the squads from 100 podcasters, bloggers, writers, content creators, YouTubers, every kind of different kind of person who's just really involved and really passionate about FPL. I've got their drafts for game week 1 from all of them. And you can see on screen right now some of the names that you might be quite familiar with. You might be familiar with all of them. You might be familiar with some of them. We've got people like Davey FPL, who you guys know I'm a very big fan of. We've got Fergie from Fantasy Football Hub there. We've got FPL Goat. We've got FPL Swede. There's so much. FPL Tips on there as well. So yeah, have a look through those lists so you know this is the 100. This is the 100 people who have been, culled of their data for this video. So first of all, in the 100 squads that I have analysed, there were 118 players used in total. 76 of those players have been used at least twice. So when we discount the players who are maybe only used once, I guess you can call them anomalies, outliers if you like. There were 76 more main players, and then 48 players who were used at least 5 times across the 100 squads. There are 6 different formations used. There are 5 different captains that have been used throughout these squads and 18 different vice captains. And we're going to talk about all of this today. So first of all, let's start off with something that is very, very interesting. Who were the most popular players used by these teams? So 100 teams, who are the most popular players? Which players occurred the most in these teams? And you can see I've put the top 60 on screen right now. And there are some that are sticking out immediately. Salah, 99 out of 100. This player was in 99 out of 100 squads. So kind of look through this, particularly the top ones. If these guys are not in your team, maybe you should be a little bit worried. If some of the players like, Trent Alexander-Arnold, 92 out of 100, 92%. Shaw, 86%. Antonio, 84%. These are incredibly popular players amongst the fantasy experts, the fantasy passionate, the people who really care about fantasy Premier League. These are the super, super popular players. And I would say out of these 60 players, you should probably be able to make your entire squad just out of these 60 players. There is a lot of argument to say if the player is not on this list here, if your player is not in the top 60 here, then perhaps they shouldn't actually be in your team at all. So take a look through this list. If you've got a lot of players who aren't even on this list, maybe that's a little bit worrying. We are going to talk about the worries a little bit later on, players who perhaps we'd expect to be on this list who aren't on this list. We'll talk about that very, very briefly. But first of all, I think we have a better look at the top 10. So as you can see, Salah is the number 1 pick in 99 out of 100 of the teams. The one person who sent me their team who didn't have Salah in their team, they're kind of a blogger, an FPL blogger, and they did say, obviously we've been blogging for a while, but it seems like recently we've got a lot of the bad luck in FPL. My team seems to be getting a lot of bad luck. And I kind of looked at the team and I was thinking, maybe that's because you haven't got Salah in your team. Maybe that's the reason why it's not bad luck at all. You're just picking the wrong players, or excluding the wrong players. So that was the one person who didn't have Salah. But incredibly, and this is out of 100, so this is a really big amount of data, all from really passionate fantasy fans. for 99% of them to have Mo Salah in your team, it kind of just suggests to me that Salah is an absolute must-have player and you shouldn't even think about going without him. I know a few of you might be thinking about going without him. You could say a similar thing about Trent Alexander-Arnold, and then I guess Shaw is the next player who's really, really popular. But at this stage, there's kind of like, you know, there's a little bit of wiggle room here, I guess. But looking through these players, I would say that if you are finding that you don't really have many of this top 10 player list, then perhaps you're doing something a little bit wrong here. So Antonio, really popular there. Bruno Fernandes, obviously, is a really big topic of discussion. Should we go with Bruno or without Bruno? 71% of the experts say that you should have Bruno in your team. They have Bruno in their teams, and 29% have gone without Bruno and perhaps spread the money out a little bit more. Foster is the most popular goalkeeper you can see there, but he is always a bench option in these teams. So 69% of these teams had Foster as their backup goalkeeper. We've got Sanchez as the most popular goalkeeper, you know, actual playing goalkeeper. And we've got other players like, Obafemi there, for example, in 44% of teams. I think that's a lot to do with the formation. Those who are gone for a formation with 2 forwards and they want a bench forward, a 4.5 million bench forward, they all seem to be going for Obafemi, other than like maybe just a few who didn't go for Obafemi as their third choice striker. But you can really see here who are the popular guys. You can see who are the really popular bench options as well from this list, mostly looking at Foster and Obafemi. But yeah, these are the most popular guys who I think if you need to kind of have, I would say 6 or 7 on this list if you want to fit the expert template a little bit and you don't want to go too far out there. So let's go position by position. So goalkeepers first. Who are the most popular goalkeepers? Well, Sanchez, like I said, is an incredibly popular goalkeeper in 65% of those teams. A lot of players also went for a Bachmann as their goalkeeper. 26% preferred Bachmann to Sanchez, obviously the Watford goalkeeper there. But there are a few others here. Martinez, 8 out of 100. I know he's an incredibly popular goalkeeper, but 8 people went for him. A few people went for Edison. I'm not really so keen on the Edison myself, but we're not talking about me today. We're talking about the data that I've gathered. Only 3 people went for Edison, 2 for Pickford, 1 for Meslier, and 1 for Schmeichel as well. So some really, some really low ownership there amongst the top 100. But it's kind of obvious to me that it seems like a straight choice between Sanchez, Bachmann, and maybe Martinez as well there. Other than that, basically no one picked any other goalkeeper in the entire game. So there's not much diversity here in terms of goalkeepers. So that's that's a really strong sign that Sanchez, Bachmann are going to be the best goalkeepers to go for. And also I've put a note at the bottom here. Only 4 out of the 100 teams will be using the rotating goalkeepers strategy. So you guys might be familiar with this. It's where you pick 2 goalkeepers, one to start, 1 on your bench, and then depending on who has the easier fixtures out of your 2 goalkeepers, you switch your goalkeeper back and forth. Now, only 4 teams out of 100 will be utilising that strategy. I know that strategy has been popular in years gone by, but it really seems to have fallen out of popularity. So if you are going for a rotating goalkeeper strategy, maybe you need to reconsider that a little bit because it's just not popular at all this year. Like I said, I don't want to talk about my opinion too much in this video, but I'm very much against the rotating goalkeeper strategy. I don't think it really works that well at all. So yeah, if you are on the rotating goalkeeper strategy right now, maybe reconsider. If you're gone for a goalkeeper who's not on this list, again, maybe reconsider. And if you don't really know what goalkeeper to go for, then Sanchez and Bachmann just seem like your really sensible shouts based on how popular they are among the people in the know. Defenders has a little bit more diversity than the goalkeepers, although there are 2 standout picks here. As you can see, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Luke Shaw are pretty much in every single team. Not every single team, but the vast majority of teams do have Trent Alexander-Arnold and Shaw, and it's the 3rd defender where we see that little bit more diversity. So we've got players like Ayling, White, Sofau, Digne, Veltman, and then dropping down a little bit to the players slightly less popular. Robertson, obviously he is injured now. That's happened since I've gathered this data, so maybe Robertson will be out of a few more teams. But we've got players like Target there, Cancelo, Aït-Nouri, Creswell, and other than that, there's just random bursts of like odd defenders, I guess, who are very rarely picked. But it looks like basically the basis of your defense, if you are using 3 defenders, you pick Trent Alexander-Arnold, you pick Shaw, and then you pick 1 more, and then maybe 1 more for your bench as well. Or if you are operating with a few more defenders, again, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Shaw, and then pick whoever else you fancy from this list, I suppose. These are the main guys to go for. In midfield, again, we have a couple of really popular players and then a huge drop-off where it's a little bit more diverse. So Salah, 99 out of 100 teams. Like I said, guys, I just don't go without him. I really just don't think you should go without him at all. So just stick him in your team no matter what. Fernandes is a little bit more up to debate, but the wisdom of the crowd suggests you go with Fernandes as well, and then you pick from some of the other players. Rafinha, Barnes, Greenwood, really popular, as is Jota. Obviously, we've got some more premiums there that maybe people who aren't going for Bruno Fernandes, they've tried to squeeze in some other premiums like Son or Mahrez there, maybe Havertz, maybe Mane as well. You can see right at the bottom of the list there, 5 out of 100 teams chose to have Mane in their team. And there's also some cheap guys in there, so Emil Smith-Rowe, Sarr, Ben Rama as well is a really good price, and some kind of mid-price players, Rafinha, Barnes, Greenwood, Jota, Buendia, those kind of guys are going to be really nice mid-priced midfielders as well there. But loads of diversity, I guess, there after Salah and Fernandes. After that, it really is kind of anyone's game who is going to be in your team. We don't really know. Obviously, a lot of people are playing with 4 or 5 midfielders as well, so that obviously that gives you an opportunity to use more different variety of midfielders as well. So there you go. Those are the midfielders who are the most popular. And in the forwards position, we have 3 really popular forwards and then a massive drop-off of randomness, I guess, really. I guess a lot of people are going for just 2 forwards or 3 forwards. Well, 3 forwards is the maximum anyway, so there can only be a certain amount of variety. But Antonio, this really surprised me that 84% have Antonio in their team. So this is by far the most popular forward and one of the most popular players in these teams. Full stop. Antonio is massively popular. It's quite incredible. More than half going for Danny Ings in their team. More than half going for Ivan Toney in their team. And then after that, it's kind of anyone's game. So if you're going for 3 forwards, Antonio, Ings and Toney seem to be the guys. If you're going for, 2 forwards, maybe pick one or Antonio and then one of Ings and Toney. But after that, it really is a bit of a mess, really. We've got Watkins, Wilson, DCL and Bamford who have a degree of popularity, I suppose. And then after that, it's just the odd person picking out, a random differential, more pay, Pookie, Adams. If you want to go for a player like that, absolutely fair enough. But those are your differentials and you should keep them as a minimum. You don't really see too many people going for a more pay, a Pookie and an Adams, for example. So yeah, do make sure you pick some of the more sensible choices as well, like Antonio, Ings, Toney. Watkins is kind of interesting. Wilson I do really like. DCL and Bamford, obviously nowhere near as popular as you probably thought that they would be, to be fair, because in the wider populace, a lot of people are going for DCL and Bamford, but among experts, they're kind of far less popular. I think Ings is the preferred 8 million forward to go for if you do want an 8 million forward in your team there. And then I've got the bench options separate because I didn't really want to mix them with the data of the main players, I guess, because, like I said, a player like Foster is the most popular goalkeeper technically, but he's not the most popular starting goalkeeper because no one's starting him. So these are your bench players who you mostly just stick on your bench and just leave on your bench to cover just in case the things go wrong in your first 11 and you need an emergency player to come on. We've got Foster as by far the most popular goalkeeper, backup goalkeeper, because we know that he did play a lot of football last season for Watford, so there is that chance that he does come in for Backman and becomes the #1 starting goalkeeper for Watford. Not too convinced that's going to happen, but there's definitely that possibility of that happening. But we've also got Steele there, who is going to be the backup goalkeeper for Brighton. So whereas a lot of people are going for Sanchez, if Sanchez were to get injured or something like that, or red carded, Steele as the deputy would come in and play instead of Sanchez there. So Steele would be the backup goalkeeper if things go wrong with Sanchez. You've got a ready-made Brighton replacement there as backup. In defence, the really interesting one here is Amati. Obviously, we know he played for Leicester in the Community Shield. Because Leicester don't really have many centre-backs fit right now. So Amati, as a 4 million defender, is filling in as centre-back for Leicester. Unless Leicester buy a new centre-back to come into their team, Amati is going to start off this season playing as one of the main centre-backs for Leicester. So you're going to get a Leicester defender for 4 million. No wonder he's so popular. Omar Bamadeli is obviously still very popular. Manquillo and Livramento also very popular as well. Livramento obviously got his move to Southampton. Not really sure how much game time he's going to get at Southampton. I don't think very much. Manquillo, I don't know he's going to get too much game time either, but maybe a few people thinking, well, this is the last player on your bench really, or usually it's the last player on your bench, you may as well take a risk on a player who could potentially come into that first team and do quite well. And Manquillo and Livramento seem to fill that void, I suppose. In midfield, Brownhill, no surprise, he's the top choice there. But Bissouma, a lot of people going for the lazy choice. I think Bissouma is the lazy choice of Bissouma. You know, it's a pretty safe and lazy choice, but I do think Brownhill is the better option, and most people seem to agree with me there. Gilmour and Gibbs White, obviously, options as well, if some people fancy those guys to do some business. Obviously, Gilmour is probably going to be quite important for Norwich. Not really sure if he's the right player for fantasy points, and we know about Norwich's starting fixtures as well. Gibbs White, on the other hand, not a little bit rotation risk, but if he does play, he's going to be really effective and potentially get you goals and assists, which is kind of exactly what we're looking for in fantasy. And then for the forwards, basically, it's a straight split between Obafemi and Davis. If you have got a 4.5 million forward, it's got to be one of these two, and most likely it's going to be Obafemi. So if you are going for a formation with only 2 forwards and you're just going to bench one of your forwards, you just want a nice cheap forward to bench, Obafemi, Davies, they are very much the guys to go for. Obafemi because at Southampton, unless Southampton do buy Armstrong, Obafemi could potentially be a starting forward alongside Che Adams. And Davies, I don't know, I guess he's a third choice behind Watkins and Ings as a striker at Aston Villa right now. I'm not really sure how much game time he's going to play. Obafemi is probably more likely to get a little bit more game time depending on Southampton's signings, what happens there, or whether Theo Walcott plays as a striker or something like that. We don't know fully what's going to go on there, but certainly Obafemi has a really good shout of getting some first team football, which is amazing for a 4.5 million forward. Okay, so formations. I know we've had a lot of writing on screen, so I thought I'd do a few graphics for this one. So these are the most popular formations. There is there's 3 clear favourite formations here. Really, really clear favourite formations. So the 3-5-2 is the most popular with 35 out of 100. But in second place, the 3-4-3 with only 32. That's still a significant chunk. So the 3-5-2 and the 3-4-3 make up the majority, and you add the 4-4-2 formation to that as well, and suddenly you've basically covered the vast majority of teams. You've covered 91 out of 100 of those teams with those 3 formations alone. So I think this is pretty accurate as to what should be the best formations. Right at this very second, my preference of formation kind of does go 3-5-2, 3-4-3 and then 4-4-2, and the other formations I'm really not so keen on because I don't think they're very flexible really, and particularly the formations with 3 midfielders I don't think are anywhere near flexible enough, but some people really like them, and some really respected names in FPL who have been canvassed for this study have gone for the 4-3-3 formation. So I'm not going to knock it entirely, it's just something that I don't prefer, and it seems like a lot of people don't really prefer those formations at the bottom there either. I should probably say at this point that only one person out of the 100 who I spoke to will be using a chip in game week 1, and that is one person is using the bench boost chip in game week 1. They're in a 3-4-3 formation, so I don't know if you want to take away one from 3-4-3 just because if you're using a bench boost, technically you don't even have a formation really because you're just using all of your players. But also at the same time, a good takeaway of that is if you are thinking about using a chip in game week 1, if you're thinking about using the triple captain chip, none of my 100 experts are using that. If you're thinking about using you can't use the free hit, but if you're thinking about using the bench boost chip, again, only one person is using that in game week 1. So that is kind of another one like the one person who went without Salah, and there's only one person who's going for the bench boost. It kind of makes you think, is that the right way? If 99 out of 100 people who know what they're doing have gone against this idea, then maybe it's not a good idea. So these outliers, these anomalies, do worry me a little bit and do make me think, okay, that's definitely something we don't want to do. We don't want to do that at all. But we are going to move on to some captains now. So, our most popular captain, no surprise, is Mo Salah. 95 out of 100. In fact, of the 99 Salah owners, 95 of them are picking Salah to be their game week 1 captain. Again, this makes it really easy for us to make a decision like this. If 95 out of 100 FPL experts are picking Salah as their game week 1 captain, then it seems pretty obvious that that's the right one to go for, right, guys? But there are a few other random ones. You know, we've got Bruno Fernandes, which I kind of do understand. You've got Mane there, who, you know, he's not really that different to Salah, really, in terms of, you know, output. You know, obviously Salah is likely to have penalties unless Milner's on the pitch. But other than that, Mane and Salah, there's not too much in them over the course of most seasons, you would say. Mane perhaps a little bit streaky, but Mane did finish last season off a little bit better than Salah. So maybe that, you know, gives him at least a little bit of, you know, a little bit of confidence. You could easily see him doing just as much, if not more, than Salah. But I do think Salah is still the sensible and probably the better pick. I'm not going to lie, guys. Fernandes, obviously, I understand, always a good captaincy option. And then a couple of people went for some Arsenal players as well. Arsenal obviously playing against Brentford. Brentford kind of expected to be the worst defence in the league this year. So a good team to target, really. Aubameyang is an interesting one because he's lost so much of as FPL managers, we've lost so much confidence in Aubameyang over the last year, and completely understandably so. He's burnt us time and time again over the last year. So for some reason, there was only one person who has Aubameyang in their team out of the 100, and they've chosen him to be their captain as well. So they did also say that they are going to be trading out Aubameyang for someone else in game week 2. So, you know, they're going to be bringing in a Kane or a Lukaku or someone like that after Aubameyang's had this initial game as Brentford. So it's kind of a high-risk strategy of going for Aubameyang in game week 1, seeing what he can do, and then getting rid of him after that. I don't know. It's just you know, an example of the many strange anomalies that you do see when you collect a large amount of data. And then Pepe as well against Brentford. Not really so sure about this one, but fair enough if that's what you want to go for. But I did want to say that a few people who haven't captained Salah or who aren't captaining Salah are well-known contrarians in the community. So these are people who, you know, they're known for going for something a little bit different. I won't name any names, obviously, but they are known for going for things a little bit differently. So perhaps that factors into why they haven't gone for Salah. Not because they don't think Salah's a good option, but because they have maybe a little bit of a reputation, or, you know, they just enjoy or find it more exciting to go for something a little bit different. But if you're like me and you don't want to take too much of a risk early on in the season, then Salah is just the captain to go for, right? Vice captain's far more random, and I don't know that the teams that were sent to me, I don't know if they maybe put as much effort into their vice captain selection. So maybe people aren't so, you know, haven't really fully decided on vice captains yet, because you can see players like Andros Townsend in there, for example. Ben Rama, you probably wouldn't want to vice captain them. But obviously we've got a lot of faith in Salah as the main captain. The general consensus seems to be that if you have Fernandes in your team as well as Salah, then you're going for a Salah captain, and then just put the vice captain on Bruno Fernandes if you have him. If you don't have him, you've obviously got some other options there. Antonio is a very popular player. He could fill in as a nice vice captain against Newcastle in game week 1. Havertz against Crystal Palace. If you've got Havertz, you may as well vice captain him, I suppose. Trent Alexander-Arnold and, you know, Salah and Mane, they obviously all play for Liverpool, so obviously all good options as well in that game against Norwich that they have. So yeah, that's basically the vice captain. It's pretty random. Basically Bruno Fernandes if you have him. If not, pick it out of a hat. And finally, this is, to me, the most interesting bit of data, because I'm a big fan of avoids, or players you should avoid. You know, we'll have the series of mine all season of buy, sell, keep, avoid, where we will be talking about players who you should be actually avoiding. They seem good, they seem popular, but actually, are they the best options? Not really. So, on this screen, you can see players who are really popular among the overall player base, but actually, amongst experts, they're not so popular. So that kind of suggests to us that although most people think, oh yeah, that'll be a great player to put in my fantasy team, the experts actually think, ooh, maybe not actually. Maybe we don't like the look of this player as much as you guys, the general populace might think. So a lot of you guys will have these players in your team, and that's absolutely fine. But I did want to point out that these players are not popular amongst the best FPL managers. So maybe for that reason, you might want to reconsider a little bit and make sure you don't have too many of these players. So Martinez, for example, he is in 8% of the expert team. So fair enough. I do kind of understand there is still a solid argument to have Martinez in your team, but it's certainly 8% compared to 38.8%. There was a huge difference there. We've got players like Grealish, almost in 30% of overall teams, only in 4%. Diaz, 27.5%, only 3% of expert teams. We've got a player like Harry Kane, 22.9% owned. So almost a quarter of you guys will have Kane in your team, yet none of the 100 people had Kane in their team. That's a real big difference, as is someone like Mount. Only one person had Mount, but over 1/5 of the general FPL player base have Mount. And you can kind of look through that list as well. Players like Cavani, Iheanacho, which kind of surprised me a little bit. I thought maybe 1 or 2 people might have gone for Cavani's and Iheanachos, but really popular players among the wider player base, no one, not one of the 100, and 100 is a big number. There's a lot of people who really, really like their fantasy. None of them went for Cavani or Iheanacho. So these players on this list, if you have them in your team, maybe the fact that they are not so popular amongst the pro players, the expert players, the passionate players, the pundits, whatever, maybe that should give a little red flag to you guys. Maybe. I don't know. I just wanted to throw that out there because maybe you'll find that kind of useful. This kind of extrapolation from data I do find really useful and really interesting as well. So I thought I'd throw it in there at the end of this video. But this has been an incredibly long video, so I think we wrap it up now. So guys, I told you this was going to be a huge video. There was just so much data. It's taken me like well over 24 hours just to catalogue all of the data before I could even start making this video and making the graphics and stuff like that. So this took a lot of time, so obviously there was loads to pack in, and this is only part 1. So guys, if you appreciate the effort that I've gone to of cataloguing 100 FPL teams and making some decent data from them, please do like the video. I would massively appreciate that. And of course, do subscribe if you're ready for part 2, where we're going to use that data to create the perfect FPL team that is going to help you dominate your mini leagues and impress all of your mates with your fabulous research that you've done. Well, I mean, I've done, but you've done it by watching this video. So, you know, we'll share credit, guys. We'll share credit. But thank you once again for watching, guys. Yeah, I really hope you did enjoy it, and I'll see you later, mates, for the next one. Bye-bye.